What's up, guys? I am Kate with TypeMatch, and I'm finally doing the second part of the ESTP video that I started a few weeks ago and then haven't gotten back to because I've been busy with the app. If you want an update on what's going on with the app, it's out on iOS and Android. You could search in iOS TypeMatch app to download it, or Android is just under TypeMatch. But we basically got the app all smoothed out, and we're going to be pushing another update in a couple of days that's going to just fix some of the issues that we found. And then beyond that, we're finally to the stage where we're going to be adding a lot of features and just revamping the whole system and design of the app. So a lot of exciting changes are coming soon that you will be able to see. But beyond that, I was just working out, and of course I do my best thinking when I'm working out because I'm an STP and that's the way it is. And so I just got done with that and decided to get on with this video. So let's get on with it. ESTPs. Okay, I never really know how to start and finish things because it's just like come and say what you've got to say and then be done with it and you've said it. But now I'm rambling because I had too much caffeine. Okay, what I want to talk about though is that ESTPs sort of embody, for me, the zeitgeist of the times. Like ESTPs, because they're so present in the time, they sort of embody the spirit of the time. So think about people like Winston Churchill and Patrick Henry. I read once that he was an ESTP, maybe not, but it's still like the spirit of the time. Patrick Henry, if you don't know, American revolutionary who said, give me liberty or give me death. And if he wasn't ESTP, that's the most ESTP type of thing you could ever say. So probably was, if not very close to that. But yeah, for me, it's being very much like a millennial and part of my generation. I could see how my life path sort of follows the typical path for someone of my generation, but it's still about always being current. I think ESTPs don't like to get old and lose touch and just live in their glory days and just remember the past all the time, although they can get nostalgic. I think they like to control that and not let that get too out of hand and more just be present in their ego. And a note about being present. I think a lot of people have the conception that ESTPs and ESFPs have great observational skills, but I think this is kind of misunderstood. For me, that seems to be more true of SE parents, noticing everything in the physical environment, not letting anything get past them in that way, because it's a responsible, ever-present function. But the ESTP and ESFP, their observations are more what's happening right now, what's popular right now, what are we all doing right now. So my types of observations are really stupid. It'll be things like walking through the grocery store and saying oh, stroopwafels have really become popular in the last few years, and it's those kinds of commentaries, I'm seeing this everywhere, they weren't here a few years ago, now this has become a thing, this is what we're doing. A few years ago that was a cool thing to bring back if you went to Amsterdam, but now you can just get it anywhere. So it's more seeing what's big and what's going to be big, where we're going, what the trends are. And it doesn't mean that ESTPs like to take part in all of the trends, that they're just following all of them, although they are very much present and part of the times and they're very aware of the trends. It's oh, I see that Game of Thrones is very popular, not even so much anymore. It's kind of gone the way of The Office, where it's yeah, you'll watch it over and over again, but whatever. But it's I don't want to take part in it. I tried watching it. I have not watched this Tiger King stuff because I watched one episode and I was this is boring. But you see a lot of people doing it and you think, maybe I should give this a shot. You give it a shot and it's nah, not for me because I don't want to waste my time. I could be out doing something. But ESTPs like to more take notice of the type of trends that they could capitalize on, which makes them good entrepreneurs, seeing what the trend is, where the market is going, what's hot right now, and then trying to capitalize on that market. So yeah, this ties into what I talked about before, like with the, all the social commentary, SE and FE, just making social commentary all day long, looking at what people are doing and thinking like, oh, why do you do that? And I've noticed that low SE types are not as interested in engaging in this type of thing. Like SI might be like, oh yeah, that is interesting. But if SE is often like, I find INTJs and INFJs not so interested in the social commentary that I'm making for very long. So unless they have well-developed SE and want to like explore that side of themselves, but generally no. Next thing about ESTPs, because I have my whole list here that I'm going through, is ESTPs like definitely pay attention to people's actions more than their words. Like, you cannot tell me anything about yourself. Like, I'm gonna watch what you do. And it's really hard if you show something to an ESTP and then they think like, oh, you said this, but you did this, meaning I can't trust you. That trust it's very, very hard to repair. They have to really want that relationship to work and want to put the effort into understanding you. But if you break their trust, like, trust is absolutely everything in a relationship to an ESTP, and you have to be a person of your word. And if things are beyond your control, they can see that, but they're going to be wary in the future of like, well, you said it would be like this, but then it wasn't. Like, can I trust you with the future? Because I'm very like uncertain about my future. And am I sure I want to be with somebody when I can't trust what they say is going to be? So yeah, absolutely they will watch your actions more than your words. And you won't be able to repair the relationship with words. You'll have to repair it with like showing them that you are trustworthy, and that was just like kind of a one-off situation. And I know this is really difficult, and it kind of sucks that an ESTP, like if you screw up majorly and you break their trust, they will bring it up over and over and over again, like, well, yeah, but that one time you said it was like this and then it was like this, so I can't trust you. And if your ESTP is doing that to you, just make them aware of how they're hurting the situation and they're hurting their potential future with you, by bringing it up over and over again, and how much you're like trying to show them, and it's important to you to show them that they can trust you. Ooh, this is a fun one. This is just a phrase that I really like, that STPs like, and it's real recognizes real, okay? And because it's really important to ESTPs to not be real in the FI sense of authentic, although authenticity is important, but real in the sense of like recognizing the reality around them, because ESTPs have the delusion that they are the ultimate masters of reality and that they can see what's going on better than anybody else can. And it's a delusion because they think they're so good at it that they'll miss things. And this is the problem of the hero function. We are all under the delusion of our hero function, because we just run it on autopilot and we think we're so good at it. And it's an optimistic function that sometimes it can fail us. But yeah, and also in terms of paying attention to what people do instead of what they say. Like, if you say that you want if I can like see that you want something and I can help you with it, I will want it for you. But if I see that like you're not willing to like actually put in the effort, that you said you wanted this thing but you're not actually trying, then I will 100% just let you fail. Right? And ESTPs can be kind of cold in this way, where like, for example, okay, this isn't good, but I'm a Spanish teacher, and I have my students, they're high school students, and I tell them, at the beginning of the year, if you want this, I will want it for you 100 times more, and I will make it happen. Okay, I will make sure you leave this learning how to speak the language and how to actually use it. But if you're not putting in the effort, then that's on you. You'll get out of this class what you put into it. So if I have kids who are just like not doing any work, not paying attention, sleeping in class, I will let them just completely fail. And then they come to me and I'm like, well, that's what you wanted. You have to live with the consequences of your decisions and your actions. Like, I tried to get you on board. I tried to encourage you individually at the beginning. You didn't want it. Now, look what you got. If you decide that you don't want my help, then it's all hands off and you get to live with that type of deal. And yeah, that's not probably what I'm supposed to do, but I will also do this in my other like friendships and relationships in my life. I'm either like all in, or like if I go hands off, then I don't care anymore. And you get to see what happens to you because you wouldn't listen to me, type of thing. Then I don't even know if this is well organized or not, whatever. Okay, ESTPs have to see proof of your loyalty to them. And they'll test you to kind of see, like, if I do this, will I lose you? If I do this, will I lose you? Because they're so focused on like giving you a good experience, and their ESTPs are worried like, okay, if I don't give you this good experience for a couple of times that we're together, will I lose you as a friend? And that happens. People are shitty, so that will happen to ESTPs, but they're testing that, like, are you a true friend type of deal. And also, like, if I'm being real with you, if I give you what I think, and I give you an experience, and I tell you the reality of what I see in you and your situation, will you respect that? Like, can you handle that type of thing? And along with the loyalty, ESTPs are kind of tricky on this because they want to like test your loyalty and make sure that you're loyal to them. But another way that they test a loyalty is to be able to know that, like, will you give me the option to leave if I want to? Okay, so let's say that an ESTP is in a situation where, like, their partner's family is going to be visiting them, and their partner in their house. And they're like, okay, if I go out for a couple of hours, do I have the option to leave? Do I have to be here the whole time? If you give me the option to not stay, I'm more likely to want to stay. ESTPs always have to see that they have like an out, that they have the option to leave. You can never ever box them in. And then that's how they will in turn be loyal to you, is because, wow, you gave me the option to leave, so I'm gonna stay. What else? Yeah, and in terms of giving people a good experience, I would say that ESTPs and ESFPs, they work so hard to give people a good experience. They sometimes wish that onus can be taken off of them, and that the other person would take the reins once in a while to give them an experience, because they don't always want to be the one initiating and taking charge. They want to see a little effort on your part too. And they're happy to be in that role because they are initiators, and like using their SE makes them happy, but they want to see that they can let up once in a while and it's going to be okay. You're not going to leave, and you can lead once in a while to give them an experience. To take a couple of seconds to relax and not have to perform for you and everybody else, because they do feel that pressure. Like if an ESTP or an ESFP walk into the room, they do feel sort of like a little bit of pressure to be like the one who is on and kind of leading the fun and the party and making sure that it's a good time for everybody. And then, in terms of discipline, I would say ESTPs or SPs in general, the way that they work towards a goal is to develop their discipline and then just kind of make it a habit that they like. ISPs a little bit less because they have NI child, so they can like look at the goal more with their NI child and be like, yeah, that's what I want, that's what I'm working for. But ESTPs and ESFPs, more the way that they go about it with NI inferior is to sort of just develop their process and to work towards that. So it's like, this is a routine that I've set for myself every day. I don't have to motivate myself to do it. I don't have to get my NI going and look at the end goal all the time to get myself to do it. I don't need a vision board. I can just like set up the routine, and then that's something that I do every day. And slowly you work towards your end goal. Looking at your end goal would be more like what an ENTJ does. But NI inferior just kind of takes a back seat to the process of it. Oh yeah, and then because ESTPs lack SI, they can be uncertain of what kind of experience they want to receive. So, and they're also being very considerate of the experience that the other person wants to have. So I've noticed in myself and in others that I've observed this phrase like, do we want barbecue? Like, and then the other person's like, I don't know, do you want barbecue? Because it's, instead of just being like, I want this because I have NI inferior and I'm not too sure about what I want, and I have SI nemesis, so I'm not too sure about like the experience that I want to have. I would rather just be like, well, I think I have this idea about experience that we might like to have together, but I want to check in and make sure that it would be a good experience for you. And then we go to the restaurant and we get the table, and I want to position my partner or my guest in a spot where they have the best view in the restaurant or in the more comfortable chair, because it really doesn't matter that much to me. I'm going to enjoy it more if I can see that I've made them comfortable. But yeah, stupid things like, do we want the fan on? It's like, I obviously know I don't want the fan on, so like I should just say, turn the fan off. But I want to check in first with their experience and their feelings about having the fan on. So that's funny. The child function, FE child, it can be quite charming, but the child function really only is ever present like when it's in the moment. So ESTPs don't show empathy so much for somebody who's not like directly in front of them that they're interacting with individually. You know, you could tell them about like this idea of this group of people over here who are suffering, but it's not going to really touch them. It's like, I don't know them. I'm not seeing them like in front of me. Who cares? But you put like somebody who's suffering right in front of them, and the ESTP will act on it. Like FE child is extremely compassionate. It just, you can't give the FE child like sort of the abstract idea of empathy towards somebody who's not there with them. It has to be like an in the moment thing, because that's the way the child function is for ENTPs as well. So that's probably why people get the idea that ETPs are not empathetic or compassionate, but they really are extremely. Just, you have to catch it in the moment. They really care about your feelings. And also the child function is sort of a relief function. So if you are stressed, you will go towards your child function, which is why I do this thing that I think I hear it and I'm like, this is totally ridiculous, but I guess it's a relief for me that when I'm stressed out about something, I will ask somebody that I'm with, like, hey, how are you feeling? Are you okay? It's like, I'm the one who's like upset or stressed, but I'm like, but FE is like, let me check in with you and your feelings, because if you're feeling good and okay, then it makes me feel better. you know, or just like if I'm stressed, getting relief of like, you know, having that extroverted time around a bunch of like FI users who have good energy at the time, or maybe they don't have good energy at the time, and I can like use my FE to like work with them and like, let's talk about like what your problems are and your feelings, because like it doesn't matter what I'm going through in the background, I don't understand it anyway. Oh, and another thing with FI Trickster, and I think this is tied to, I mean, it's tied to like sensing, having higher sensing, is that I often won't realize what I'm feeling. Like, I just have to sort of observe my physiological cues to know what I'm feeling. Like, I don't really know that I'm stressed. I can't like be like, oh, that's what this feeling is right now, or like, you know, stress is such a broad term. I'm sure like an FI user could help me like really nail it down more. I'm constantly getting out like the wheel of emotions, or like feelings wheel. I don't know what it is. It has all those colors and it like identifies it. I guess spend a lot of time like, what am I feeling, and try to like connect and like, maybe it's this. But I won't even really know that's happening until I observe that like, oh, I'm biting my lip, and I bite my lip when I'm stressed out or nervous. So that must be what's happening right now, which is, it's funny. Yeah. Anyway, what else do I want to say? Oh, this is fun. Okay, everything's fun, isn't it? I've seen this a lot with people who think that they are intuitives and think that they're introverts, and maybe they are intuitives and introverts, and this is definitely a thing for them as well. But the sensory overload thing has been attached to intuitive introverts, but I think that ESPs can experience this as well. Like, but it might be like a different type of sensory overload. Like, I find that I'm so affected by the sensory, and it's probably because of SE Hero, that I have to block a lot of it out. And I talked about this in the last video, where like I'll kind of, when I'm thinking, I'll let my eyes glaze over so that I can go inside, because the external world is so distracting. But I'm so affected by it. They'll be like, I don't listen to music like up to 3 hours before I am going to go to sleep, because it affects me so much. Like I get so like hype. It's way too much for my energy, or like it'll just, I don't know. So I'm like, I won't be able to go to sleep if I listen to music, even if it's like calming music. I'm like, no, this is too, I'm vibing too much right now for sleep. You know, and things with like bright lights, I always keep the lights down, but so I'm not sure that that is an IN exclusive trait, and I've heard people type themselves as INs based upon this, and I think that that's something that we should maybe be cautious of. Another thing is, like, an observation I've made of myself is that options become so overwhelming so easily, to where like, and I guess this is NE demon operating, because if I go to let's say a pharmacy, well, pharmacies are different in the US than they are in the rest of the world. In the rest of the world, they're just pharmacies, but in the US, they're more like mini Walmarts, you know, it's got everything, okay? And in the US, you know, but whatever. Okay, let's say a grocery store. You go up to the counter to pay, and there's all this stuff around you. And it's just like, oh my God, this is so distracting that you've put in front of me, when I'm trying to like get a task done, all of these other options. And I cannot like focus on just making eye contact with the cashier and completing my task, because you've overwhelmed me with all of these other options that I haven't gotten a chance to SE explore yet. And like, you know, if I'm at the counter of the store and they have a bunch of interesting things, I want to look at each individual thing first, before I can make my final decision to check out. I want to check out all of the options. So I just, like, personally, I wish they wouldn't do that, because it's like, it's almost stressful. It's like, how am I can't complete my task. So I'm over explaining now. Probably not. But yeah, anything with a ton of options or a ton of choice, like I'd really rather just narrow the choices down. I like it if somebody could just go through and narrow them down, or I can narrow them down and then they can make the final decision. That sounds like an NI problem, an SI not knowing what it wants to experience. But decision making can be troublesome. And then finally, I have made a list here of things that SE will commonly say, a list of phrases. So walking into a room, be like, hey, what's happening? And not like 70s, like, hey, what's happening? Or something, like, just like, what's happening in here? What are you doing? Asking all the time, what are you doing? And I've noticed, because I'm so direct with the what are you doing, like people will kind of take it as like an accusatory tone. So I'll have to follow it up often with like, I'm not mad, you're not in trouble, I'm just curious, what are you doing? Type of thing. And then, how are you doing that? Okay, curious about like how things work. Like, how does this work? How does that work? Going into a business and trying not to annoy them too much. And I'm like, well, how does this process work? How does that work? How does this work? How do you do that? What are you doing about this? Okay, I talked about how SE thinks it's sort of like the master of reality and knowing what's going on. So when people don't have the same view of what's happening, SE can be very like, that's not what's happening. And that's not what we're talking about here. If you're talking to somebody and they're taking something in like a different direction, maybe looking at like a different NE possibility or taking it to an intuitive place, or for me, it could be like they're taking it to like TEFI land or something, and it's not on the direct topic of what I'm talking about. I'd be like, that's not what we're talking about though. We're talking about this thing, okay? Don't get distracted by all those NE possibilities. This is the real thing. And then noticing like, oh, what's going on is da 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 da. I've seen a lot about insert lately. This has become popular recently. People are talking a lot about blank right now. Everyone's doing this right now. So just noticing what's going on. What is everybody doing? Social commentary like crazy. And then this one is people like to think that, or people want to think that, because TE Critic has so little respect for the opinions of others that they think aren't logical, that don't make sense to them, that it'll just be like, you just want to think that, or you like to think that, but that's not reality, SETI, because it doesn't make sense to me in reality. And I said that was the final thing, but I just looked at my notes and I saw something else. I'm sorry, this is unstructured, but ESTPs have trouble. It's commonly said that ESTPs and SPs in general have trouble committing, but I want to make a commentary about like how I think ESTPs have trouble committing to something that looks objectively terrible. Okay, so I'm sorry if anybody gets offended by this. I am not directing this at anybody in particular, okay? But ESTPs often have trouble committing to things like relationships, marriage, having children. Why? Because all the rest of the world is making these things look objectively awful. Like, for me, it was hard to ever imagine myself as wanting children, because in the US, like, this is the way I am looking at it and seeing it. Like, family life looks distasteful. It doesn't look enjoyable at all. Parents oftentimes look miserable. They look like they're not doing what they want. They look like they're just giving up their lives for their kids. And if that's what somebody has chosen to do, I am not criticizing you or your life choices at all. Okay, I'm trying to say this without offending. Okay. But then I went to Spain and I lived for a couple of years, and family life there looks so much better than in the US. And it made me like rethink, like, oh, maybe I could have kids, I could have a family, and I wouldn't have to lose my life and what I want and all of my choices, okay? Because I have to see, like, in physical reality, that that's even an option. And that's why it's so important for ESTPs to see like good examples of what something could look like, okay? If I've only seen like negative examples of family life in the US where it's like, your life looks awful. Like, I go into your house and it's a total wreck and there's kids running around screaming and toys everywhere and you look tired. Like, why would I want to do that? Like, the physical reality is this does not look fun at all. And I know parenthood isn't about fun, but it's just, do I want that to be my life? I see that and I'm like, no, I don't want to live a life like yours. So it's really important for ESTPs to know and see that they can still make it the way they want to make it, because they see all these examples and it doesn't really occur to them that they could choose to make it exactly how they want to make it, and that option exists. So they have to see an example of like somebody who has kids and they still are very much like self-possessed and have their life together and their own business and are getting like enough sleep, and their life hasn't descended into utter chaos, because order is very important to an ESTP, and knowing that they'll still be able to pursue what they want, because it's all about freedom and autonomy. Like, the ultimate goal of the ESTP is to be autonomous, and this is why like they're entrepreneurs, because they want to have like dominion over themselves and their lives and their choices. And even though like when you're an entrepreneur, you have to give up so much of your time, but it's a choice. And I think ESTPs are very aware that like, suffering is inevitable, so you might as well choose what your suffering is going to be, or it will be chosen for you. And that's what entrepreneurship is all about, and probably having a family as well, now that I think about it. So but yeah, that's all I can think about now for ESTPs. I guess I can get back to my workouts. So you guys should check out the TypeMatch app, on Android TypeMatch, or on iOS TypeMatch app, and I'll link them below.